Good day everyone! Today we will discuss species interaction, ecological successions, and population control. Together with me are my group mates, namely Angel Menorias, Wawi Dimalgi, and yours truly Jovidin P. Marikid. So before we proceed to the discussion proper, let me first have the learning objective. At the end of this lesson, the students are able to first learn the 5 basic types of interaction between species. Second, know the 2 types of ecological successions. Third, enumerate the 5 reproductive patterns. So here's the topic outline: species interaction, ecological successions, and population control.
Hi guys, I'm Wawi from Group 4 and I am assigned to discuss species interaction. So let's start. How do species interaction? There are 5 types of species interaction. The first type is competition, second type predation, parasitism, mutualism and commensalism. The first one is competition. So what is competition? Competition occurs when two or more species interact to gain the same limited resources. It is the most common interaction in between species. When two species use the same resources, their niches overlap. Resource partitioning occurs when species competing for similar resource car evolve specialized traits that allows them to use shared resources at different times, in different ways or in different places. So these are the examples. Example of a competition. The hyena eating the I don't know what kind of animal is that. Hyena and the lion. Second image, the cheetah and still the hyena eating the dead body of a zebra. Okay, moving on. Predation. Predation occurs when a member of one species predator feeds directly on all or part of a member of another species prey. Now these are the example of predation. The what do you call this? Fox and the squirrel. The fox is the predator and the prey is squirrel. Second image, the snake and the little mouse. The third image is the lion and the zebra. Okay, moving on. Parasitism. Parasitism occurs when an organism, the parasite, feeds on another organism, the host, usually by living on or in the host. So, examples of parasitism. The mosquito sucking blood from human skin. The next image, the flea, and I think this is a dog. Okay, moving on. Mutualism is an interaction that benefits both species by providing each with food, shelter, or some other resources. These are the examples of mutualism. The bee and the flower. They benefit to each other. Next image, the clownfish and the sea animal. Okay, the next type. Okay, the last type, commensalism, is an interaction that benefits one species but has little, if any, effect on the other. So this is the example of the commensalism, the bird and the zebra. That's all for my report. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, my name is Angel Minorias and I am about to discuss the topic ecological successions. So what is ecological succession? It is the gradual change in species composition, or it is the process that describes how the structure of a biological community, that is an interacting group of various species either in a desert, forest, grassland, marine environment, and so on, that changes over time. And there are two types of ecological successions. First is the primary succession, and the second is the secondary succession. Primary succession is the establishment of communities on nearly lifeless ground or no soil. So this type of ecological succession begins in a lifeless areas, such as regions in which there is no soil or where the soil is incapable of sustaining life. Examples are areas with a recent lava flows, nearly formed sand dunes, or rocks left from retreating glaciers. The secondary succession, on the other hand, is a community disturbed, soil remains, burned or cut forest, polluted stream, or flood. So this type of ecological succession, or it is the evolution of a biological community's ecological structure in which plants and animals recolonize a habitat after a major disturbance, such as this burn or cut forests, polluted streams, flood, or devastating flood, yeah, wildfire, landslide, lava flows, or etc. Here is an example of a primary succession. So as what I have mentioned, that it starts from a lifeless soil, or there is no soil. So here from the first stage, which is the pioneer stage, there are three stages: the pioneer stages, the intermediate stages, and the climax community. So this process starts from the bare rock, where there are no trees, no shrubs. It's just a bare rock. There's no life in it. Then, from time to time, mo evolve. Then, ma-form siya og lichens, mosses, herbs, weeds, until mabot siya sa intermediate stages, where the grasses are already formed, the shrubs, pines, hickories, immature oaks, then until such time mabot siya sa climax community, where large trees na jud ang ma-form, such as oaks, hickories, black, walnuts, maples, tulip, poplars, and beeches. Communities and ecosystems change over time. Secondary succession occurs with a series of communities or ecosystems with different species develop in places containing soil or bottom sediments. Such areas include abandoned farmland, burned or cut forests, heavily polluted streams, and flooded land. How predictable is succession? So here are the factors that we can say succession is predictable. So climax, first is climax community concept, which is an orderly sequence. The balance of nature, old school, new views of equilibrium in nature, unpredictable succession, the modern view that is that we cannot project the course of a given succession. And last one is the natural struggles. So here is an example of the secondary succession, the second type of ecological succession, the secondary succession. So first, there are stages from stage 1 to 8. So the first stage, puno siya og trees, there is life. Wala na wala. And then, the second stage is there is a disturbance that has occurred. So there is a fire, there's a forest fire that destructed the forest. The third one, wala na jud ang forest, so na-burn na siya. In the fourth stage, wala na jud siya tanan. There's no fire, there's no tree, there's no life. Then the fifth stage, as time goes by, magkahinay-hinay, mutubo na pud ang mga grasses, mga leaves, small shrubs until such time from 6 to 8 magkahinay-hinay na siya until ma-form na pud ang forest. So there is life again. So that is the difference between the two types of ecological succession, the primary and the secondary succession. Ang primary succession, it started from nothing, from a lifeless soil. Then, ang secondary succession, nag-start siya og life. There is life until such disturbance occurred, like this forest, there is fire, forest fire, na lava flows, na flood, then maguba ang forest until magkadugay, makuan na pod siya, mabalik na pod siya sa iyang natural state, like this, the stage 8. So wala siyang difference sa duha. Living systems are sustained through constant change. Living systems contain complex processes that interact to provide some degree of stability. This capacity to withstand external stress and disturbance is maintained by change in response to changing environmental conditions. One aspect of stability is inertia or persistence, which is the ability of a living system, such as a grassland or forest, to survive moderate disturbances. A second aspect of stability is resilience, which is the ability of a living system to be restored through secondary successions after a more severe disturbance. And there are three big ideas in the ecological succession. First is certain interactions among species affect their use of resources and their population sizes. Second, there are always limits to populations growth and in nature. And last one, changes in environmental conditions cause communities and ecosystems to gradually alter their species composition and population sizes or ecological succession. And that would be the end of my presentation. Thank you and God bless.
Now, let's proceed to the population control. Population dynamics, factors affecting population size. So, we have here 3 factors affecting the population size. What are they? We have first, population change. Births plus immigration minus deaths and plus immigration. Then we have the age structures or the stages. Then third, we have the age and population stability. Limits on population growth. We have the biotic potential. It is when we say biotic potential, it is the capacity for a species to grow. So we have also the intrinsic rate of increase, assumes unlimited resources, then no indefinite population growth. We have also the environmental resistance, all the factors that limit population growth. So the population growth also one of the hindrances for the species to grow. Then we have the carrying capacity, determined by biotic potential and environmental resistance. So as you can see on the illustration, the population growth curves. So we have here the time allotted, the exponential growth, the biotic potential, and the carrying capacity. So we have also the environmental resistance, whether the species can grow on the environmental basis. Then, species have different reproductive patterns. Some species have many, usually small offspring and give them little or no parental care or protection, like for example the cockroach and the dandelion. Some species have few, usually fairly large offspring and invest parental care and protection. So there are some species nga need og care, highly, you must have, or you must extend your care and protection, especially for those kuan large offspring. And then, one example of these are the elephant. So next slide, I will show you the example. So, reproductive patterns. We have the 5 reproductive patterns. What are they? Are selected species, opportunities or mostly are selected, environmental impacts on opportunists, case selected species or the competitors, and then we have the intermediate and variable reproductive patterns. So here is the illustration sa related sa ako ang giingon nga are selected opportunists and case selected species. So we have our selected species, like for example katong ganiha akong giingon, cockroach and the dandelion. Many small offspring lagmit, small lang jud ang iyahang offspring. Little or no parental care and protection of offspring. So no asa mata makakita og tawo nga naggalam og cockroach. So, early reproductive age, most offspring die before reaching reproductive age. Small adults, adapted to unstable climate and environmental conditions. So, this lagmit ang ing-ani nga species, ang R selected species, are the one who can adapt whatever climate or environmental conditions we have. Then we have the high population growth rate. Population size fluctuates wildly above and below carrying capacity. So let's have the case selected species. Like for example, ang akong giingon ganiha, elephant and the saguaro. So fewer but larger offspring. So one of the example of this is the elephant or the kanang mga mammals. Elephant, dog. So, high parental care and protection of offspring. So, lagmit ang mga large offspring, they needed a high parental care and protection. Kinahanglan sila kanang tagapag-alaga. Later reproductive age, most offspring survive to reproductive age. So, one of the example of this is the kanang elephant sa Manila Zoo. So, pila na to iyahang edad. So, they can survive, no? So, larger adults adapted to stable climate and environmental conditions. Lower population growth rate. Population size fairly stable and usually close to carrying capacity. Exponential and logistic population growth. Resources control population growth. Of course, the resources control the population growth. Like for example, if an animal on a desert place do not have enough food, of course the population growth might be affected. Next, exponential growth and the logistic growth. So that's all. This is our reference. So that would be all. Thank you for listening and stay safe everyone.